Texas. The road you're on, John Anderton, is the one less traveled. Make sure you follow
Good evening, John. You can move the old-fashioned
John Anderton.
provides gourmet cuisine.
John Anderton, you can use a Guinness right about now.
Stressed out, John Anderton.
Escape from it all, Harrison. Get away, John Anderton. Forget your troubles.
Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. Welcome back to the Gap. How those assorted tank tops work out for you?
Mr. Yakamoto.
Hey, Miss Balfour, did you come back for another pair of those chamois lace-ups?
If you joined the crowd at Notting Hill Carnival this bank holiday weekend, you could be scanned, identified and tracked in real time, thanks to facial recognition. Sky News has learned that more than 20 million facial images are now held by the police, which could correspond to nearly a third of the UK population. It's the second year police have trialled the technology at Carnival, and it's being deployed more and more. Leicestershire Police have previously used it at a festival, and football fans attending the Champions League final here in Cardiff in June were also scanned. But in his first ever interview, the Independent Biometrics Commissioner has told Sky News that pressing ahead with the technology poses risks.
If the police start deploying a technology without us understanding what it will do and without any government framework, legislative framework or independent oversight, then I think that will undermine trust in the police. Then you're perfectly right, there is this question about invasion of individual privacy. And there needs to be a proper balance between whatever the public interest is claimed and the interference in that individual privacy.
Surveillance is obviously crucial to the police and intelligence agencies, and counter-terrorism makes it even more vital. What facial recognition allows, though, is the computer to pick your face out of a crowd. Rather than just being kept tabs on, you're tracked in real time. It's mass surveillance for the physical world.
Facial recognition has advanced dramatically over the last 5 years, thanks to machine learning and artificial intelligence. This British company says its recognition systems get 10 times more accurate every 3 to 6 months, and that they're being used by counter-terrorism agencies around the world every day. What you're seeing now is a real-life demo.
The state of the art is changing, and what we have now is the ability to do much more in the real world in real time. So what we're showing today is a capability that can be much more in the Jason Bourne style, i.e. we're looking for people in the real world as they go about their everyday lives.
The Met told us the deployment of the cameras is to test the technology and was implemented following close liaison with the Information Commissioner and Big Brother Watch. Once the trial is complete, we will be analysing the results and holding a public consultation. The overall picture for policing is patchy. Through Freedom of Information requests, Sky News has found that 3 police forces use the technology. For the Champions League final, though, South Wales Police only conducted a privacy assessment after plans had been put in place to monitor tens of thousands of fans under facial recognition. The Home Office was supposed to publish a biometric strategy giving regulations on how to use facial recognition 3 years ago. It still hasn't.
This should not be happening in a policy vacuum. That's, I think, the key point. The government needs to set out what its position is on this. How we balance security against privacy, how we reassure the public that this technology is going to be used properly.
It's not just police and intelligence agencies who use facial recognition. Businesses are getting into it too. Adverts can be targeted at you in real time by detecting your gender, your age, and even your emotions. This is an unsettling future, one that so far the public has had little say over.
Tired of trying to flag down a bartender at a crowded bar? Well, there may be a solution. One pub in London is testing facial recognition technology to help ensure customers get served. The inventors of this technology say, don't worry if you're a privacy advocate. You shouldn't be worried because all the data is going to be wiped out after closing time. But would you allow bars to scan your face for quicker service?
Oh, privacy, don't worry about it. Facebook's got you covered. Amazon's got you covered. Everything's great. Look, I want to go back to the Slinky. I want to go back to Operation. There's a bit too much technology. And here is my rule on getting a bartender to get you a drink. bartender, and just
Okay.
stick the 20 up
I
there,
would hope
and that's
that's
it. I will never use facial recognition in a bar.
Gary, your face is on TV every day of the week. What are you worried about having your face scanned at a bar? I mean, look, this technology is coming. It's essentially a fingerprint for modern day.
We know.
And ultimately, all a company can do is just offer you a trade. Fear not facial recognition.
Listen, I want my Bartles and James wine cooler, and I want it now, so I will do whatever it takes to get served more quickly.
Zach?
All right, I'm buying all of your faces a drink. All of your faces get a drink.
And by the
today
way,
from
Liz
me.
is right. Is if you're on television, chances are somebody somewhere has your face in some computer system, so you might as well get a quick drink while you're at it.
Artificial intelligence, once a vision of the future, but now a growing part of our everyday lives. It's not just dancing robots. From 3D printing to artificial beehives, the potential of new technology is limitless. But while we may think that machines are more efficient than people, new research has thrown up some worrying results, especially when it comes to facial recognition software. Joy Buolamwini has been researching prejudice in tech, and her work is on show in this new exhibition at London's Barbican.
So this is the experience I had that kind of started it all.
Yeah.
I was a grad student at MIT working on a project that used face detection, and you saw it worked well on my friend's face. When it came to my face, it didn't work so well until I put on
the white mask on.
Yes, the white mask, right? And
then it worked perfectly.
So here you see different examples of iconic women being mislabeled. So this is Serena Williams on the cover of Wired saying the future needs to be more diverse and more inclusive. And then we have Face++, Chinese company labeling her male. And here we have Michelle Obama.
Joy realized the problem had the potential to cause serious harm.
I read another report that showed with self-driving cars, when they tested pedestrian tracking, it was less accurate on darker-skinned individuals than lighter-skinned individuals.
Joy believes this bias is because of the lack of diversity in the data used in teaching AI to make distinctions.
As I started looking at the data sets, I learned that for some of the largest data sets that have been very consequential for the field, they were majority men and majority lighter-skinned individuals or white individuals. So I call this pale male data. And if you have a lot of pale male data, you're destined to fail the rest of the world, who I call the undersampled majority, people and women of color, because they're not even included. And right now we have to make sure we prioritize inclusion and we prioritize ethics.
It's traumatic. They take you to a cell, they make 3 men come in and cross their arms and look at you, take your clothes off. And they say instructions, squat, lift up your scrotum, spread your cheeks, all of that. From the ages of about 14 to 20, I say, for the majority of the time I'll get stopped at least once or twice a day. I know I'm green, or I was green. I don't even know if I was still on it. I've been told, because I've been told. Who by? By gang unit. Do you know what it was? Gang unit, yeah?
The police gang unit?
Yeah. It's a confusing thing to be a part of, like. That's what I'm saying. You should be told, you hear it on a database, you should be yourself. You should be trying to hide. But I remember feeling a sense of, oh, so you know about me then, all right.
Facial recognition technology is a fast-growing market. It's increasingly employed by law enforcement, retailers, social networking sites like Facebook. But as Christina Quinn tells us, a new study out of MIT is finding the technology still needs a lot of work.
The study, called Gender Shades, looks at how accurately 3 tech giants classify gender with their face analysis technologies.
I wanted to know how the companies IBM, Microsoft, and Face++ did at guessing the gender of a face in an image.
At first glance, MIT researcher Joy Buolamwini says the overall accuracy rate was high, even though all companies better detected and identified men's faces than women's. But the error rate grew as she dug deeper.
Lighter male faces were the easiest to guess the gender on, and darker female faces were the hardest.
One system couldn't even detect if she had a face, and the others misidentified her gender. White guy, no problem. Black female parliament member, does not compute. The accuracy rate in identifying light-skinned men's faces was 99%, but for darker-skinned women, IBM's system got it right only 65% of the time.
So when we're looking at these systems that are relying on data, we have to be honest about the kind of data that's being fed into it.
And if programmers are training artificial intelligence on a set of images that is primarily made up of white male faces, their systems will reflect that bias. Bolamwini calls this the coded gaze. Another part of the equation could be that most programmers are white men.
I think that definitely contributes to it because you might not even know to question your data or your benchmark if it's reflective of you in the first place. If you don't have a very diverse perspective, it can be easier to miss groups you're not as familiar with.
This can be problematic as more industries rely on data to decide things like what you should pay for car insurance to when you're likely to commit another crime. According to the Georgetown Center on Privacy and Technology, half of all American adults are in a law enforcement face recognition network. But with no regulatory accountability, citizens don't know how accurate these face recognition systems are and if their privacy is being violated.
If this technology is flawed, it shouldn't be used in the first place. And if this technology is going to be adopted, there have to be standards in terms of accuracy standards, but not just how well the technology works, but how the technology is used. Is it even helping you attain the main objective?
By holding tech giants accountable, Bolamwini is hopeful that people will demand the same of law enforcement and the commercial companies that make face recognition technology.
You have to be intentional about being inclusive because those in power reflect the current inequities that we have.
And with the collective she founded, the Algorithmic Justice League, Bolamwini wants to help bridge the gap. People can report their experiences of bias online, and companies can request that the Algorithmic Justice League audit their technology for diversity.
Right now we're in this place of largely blind faith. There's a lot of excitement about what AI can do, and yes, there are many things it could do, but we have to be honest about how it's being implemented. At the end of the day, who's being harmed, who's benefiting?
How does my iPhone know that's me? And how does Facebook know that's me? And why is Facebook always asking if I want to tag myself in these photos? Well, both are using facial recognition technology. So what's going on?
Facial recognition is not a new thing. It was pretty simple. People would use a ruler to take measurements of your facial features, like how long your eyebrows are, the position of your eyes, the curve of your lips, and so forth. Today, the process is much faster.
Now, we use more like deep learning based method, which raised the recognition even higher than a human can do. So almost perfect.
That's Won-Suk Lee, a professor in the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Ottawa. She has 15 years of expertise in facial recognition, facial modeling, and computer animation.
Wait, did she just say the accuracy rate of facial recognition is almost perfect?
So almost perfect.
Almost perfect? There are all these headlines about facial recognition being racist or having pre-programmed biases. Why was Amazon's recognition misidentifying dark-skinned women but identifying white men?
That's basically because they don't have a lot of database for the African people. If we recognize the gender, or if we recognize age, and then also if we recognize ethnic groups, or with the skin tone, we can raise the recognition system better.
Gotcha. So if Amazon's recognition was having trouble identifying dark-skinned women, programmers need to feed it more images of dark-skinned women and show them in various scenarios. Different lighting, various angles, in different outfits, wearing hats and sunglasses, all things that would increase the accuracy rate.
So theoretically, if the facial recognition software has enough variety of images of me, it should be able to recognize me 100% of the time, even if I fed it an image of me in a darker scenario with glasses on and short blue hair.
Now, I don't care if Facebook misidentifies me as someone else, but what about when facial recognition misidentifies people at the airport? Or when law enforcement uses it to make an arrest?
Caucasian people recognize Caucasian very well, but they don't recognize Asian people very well. They don't recognize African people very well either. People are depending on familiarity kind of thing. Machine can do more objective work if they are trained enough with various people, with enough data.
Luckily, it's not left up to just the machines.
And if facial recognition gets it wrong, there are other methods in place like fingerprint, iris, ear, and palm recognition. But this still doesn't address the security and privacy concerns that come with this new technology. Let's start with facial recognition in airports. According to a recent report from BuzzFeed News, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection stated that they're using this technology to 1. Identify non-U.S. citizens who use fraudulent travel documents, and 2. Provide a quicker check-in process. But there are concerns that the U.S. government is using this technology to create a digital identification library of millions of Americans without their consent.
CBP says they're not storing the photos. But it's hard to prove if that's true or not.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection claims they do delete photos after 12 hours, and that they also give U.S. citizens the option to opt out of checking in with facial recognition and check in manually.
The reality is, not many travelers know that they can opt out of the technology.
Another concern is the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement using facial recognition. ICE says it's using the technology to protect the U.S. from cross-border crimes and undocumented migrants they say threaten national security and public safety. But there are concerns that this could be used as a tool that violates human rights if there aren't clear protections and restrictions in place. It's unclear how this will shake out in the US, but in China, we're already seeing how the overuse of facial recognition can get out of hand. The country is using facial recognition for mass surveillance and to give their citizens social scores. A citizen's social score is based on their economic and social reputation and can be affected by bad driving, jaywalking, posting fake news online, or just buying too many video games.
So when people pass and if a face is shown, and if they have a database of the person, we can recognize the person. And then if there are CCTV everywhere in the city, let's say there is a target person, government want to know whatever, and then actually they can follow the track and then find out everything about a person.
Their face is linked to their government records, social networks, and tracked behavior through CCTV cameras. Good and honest behaviors can lead to discounted airline tickets. Committing wrong deeds can cause problems, like banning you from flights and trains or taking away your dog. The Chinese government believes this social credit system can help society be better by rewarding good behavior and denouncing bad behavior. But it does feel like Orwell's 1984.
And citizens have reported concerns about their privacy and the lack of checks and balances on this system.
Facial recognition is a powerful tool. And with great power comes great responsibility, right? It could wind up being great for automation, finding missing people, or just checking you in at the airport. But should companies and governments even have access to all this data? What sorts of guidelines should they follow? Will the government use it in limited ways, like just for law enforcement? Or will they use it publicly to embarrass citizens like China's social credit system? How can they guarantee that the data they collect will be deleted? What are they going to do in case of a data breach? Or how will they prevent one?
These are questions that are still in discussion, and it doesn't sound like there are going to be any simple answers anytime soon.
Facial recognition is here to stay.
Chapter 16. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame.